Cool, man. So you remember how we met? We actually met in Florida, I think. We were shooting Generation Iron One, and it was a segment with Ruli and his trainer, Grandma. Remember that?
Yeah, but wasn't that in
Yeah.
Dallas?
Okay. Maybe Dallas. Maybe Dallas. You're right. It was
The
probably Dallas.
Europa.
The Europa. Yeah, yeah. And then you came in a room, and then
Yes, I remember.
you asking him to pose. Remember that? And you were like critiquing him. Remember that?
Right. I
That,
remember exactly. Yes.
that was a cool moment because I was like, because Grandma was his coach at the time, right?
Right.
And then you came in and you were showing. Do you think it was some kind of like maybe tension between her and like kind of like you giving direction to him? Because I was thinking in my mind, what I mean, like she upset over like kind of you giving him the pointers.
I don't think so. I don't think so because no, I don't think so. I don't think she had any feelings towards that. I don't think so. She's always good to me. She always shows a lot of respect. I respected her, so no, I don't think there was any tension. Not definitely not from my side, and I doubt it. I didn't feel nothing coming from her either.
Do you think there's a lot of, especially right now, there's kind of like a lot of tension happening between the gurus? Because obviously you guys have to get the clients, right? So the more clients you have, the better your portfolio is, right? Do you ever feel that way? There's kind of like a competition?
No, no, maybe 10 years ago, yeah, or 8 years ago, but now, nah, because not. I mean, I don't see it, from anywhere. I don't know about some of the other guys, but nah, I don't think that. I mean, I live the way I do it is different. If somebody contacts me, and if somebody contacts me and says, "See, listen, I'm working with so and so and so and so, but I'm thinking about doing something different. I want to know what are your prices." I would always contact, if I know the guy, I would always contact the guy and say, "Look here, so and so contacted me. What's the situation?" Not because I think I can't do what I want to do, but out of respect. You know what I mean? Because I somehow, because athletes somehow can be a little so and so. You know what I mean? When as long as you're with them, it's all you. But behind your back, they're contacting other people and talking other stuff. So it happens all the time. So, but no, I don't know what the guys do nowadays. But I don't think there's any tension at all.
It's interesting because I was watching a video of you from like a couple of years ago, and you were actually praising Hani Rambat, and like a few other
Yeah,
coaches.
I
Yeah,
have respect for all these guys because at
yeah.
the end of the day, you got to give credit where credit is due. You know what I mean? And yeah, there's a lot of guys that trash talk people down, and I'm sure there's trainers they will try to get athletes and tell them, this trainer so and so doesn't know what he's doing. It happens all the time. But listen, I've been in this game for a very long time. You know what I mean? And I got to give credit where credit is due. So if somebody is a good coach, and what I mean, just because somebody is not in shape doesn't mean the coach is not good. Because from my experience, know, number one, there's very few athletes. I mean, very few that literally follow 100% what you tell them. There's, I know about 3, 4 guys where I can say that I've worked with, they followed everything to the T. You know what I mean? So
And
they'll
and the
do
re-
it.
and the rest don't listen. They don't follow it.
No, they don't, because there's there's a difference there, though. Amateurs coming up, top amateurs, pros. There's a difference, When you get to a certain level, you think you know better. So I just never understood. I said, if you know it all, why are you hiring a coach? You know what I mean? So no, they think, and they should, because everybody should know their body better than anyone else. But if you don't follow the protocol 100%, don't blame your coach. When you follow everything to a T, then you have the right to say, "Listen, I did everything you told me to," and then the coach has to man up and say, "Listen, this is me. I made a mistake, or I couldn't figure it out. It happens. You can coach 20 people, 15 of them are in great shape, 5 of them are not in great shape. Doesn't mean the coach is bad. It just means it just don't work. It just won't work." And that's when guys have the right to switch coaches to see and to find a different approach, to find what really works for them.
A lot
You know
of
what I
time,
mean?
a lot of times recently though, it feels like a lot of the gurus or coaches they get a bad rap for some reason, right? It almost becomes something like a bad word to say. But do you think a coach should be ever responsible for athletes' health?
Well, at the end of the day, the athlete is going to do it regardless. At the end of the day, a coach should understand the risk, and the coach should let the athlete know. I said, listen, there's potential risk in whatever you do. But at the end of the day, the athlete is going to make the ultimate decision to do use whatever he wants to use. You know what I mean? So I don't think the coaches are responsible. There are irresponsible coaches out there, I'm saying that, where they're using a huge amount of things that are totally not necessary. You know what I mean? Just because they never learned it the right way, Because, think about it. Everybody's a coach nowadays. I've never seen so many prep coaches in my life. Never even heard of them. Every athlete that hired a coach for one show, as soon as the show's over, they are offering prep. So there's no experience there. You know what I mean? Experience as a coach doesn't mean you have to have experience as an athlete. It helps. Being a competitor for a long time, helps because you get experience in certain things, in certain protocols. But experience, and to be a great coach, you got to understand to work with different types of people, different types of metabolisms, different types of, you know what I mean? This athletes, everybody's a little different. That shows you, and that comes from coaching experience. I'm talking years and years of coaching different variety of different athletes.
Now, you agree that competitive bodybuilding is an extreme sport, right, to a certain degree?
Yes.
So, I've been asking a lot of the same questions to a lot of the gurus and athletes that I've been talking to recently, and nobody can give me like a very precise answer, because a lot of people that are watching this channel are basically, aspiring bodybuilders, right? And they want to get into the industry, they want to be on a stage, you know what I mean? They want to make a name for themselves. What is the right way to really learn about competitive bodybuilding? Is it really just going out to a guy like you, hiring you and going, taking them through the ropes? Or is it Googling stuff online? Like, what's the right approach to learn about bodybuilding? You know what I'm saying?
Well, Google, no, Mr. Google is Mr. Google. You can Google anything.
No, but people say do your research. Like, how do you do the research? You know what I'm saying? Like, let's say I want to be a bodybuilder. How do I do the research?
Yeah, doing your research. There's no school that we could call. There's no specific website. When I tell people do your research, means ask around, ask people. You ask hundreds of people. You know what I mean? Don't run to the next guy with the bigger arm. Find out, do your research, find out who's been doing this for a long time. And then sooner or later, you're going to have to get to a person where you have to put some trust in. There's no way around it. You know what I mean? And like I said, everybody's a prep coach nowadays. And a lot of guys don't even have the experience being a prep coach. Because at the end of the day, every athlete that's been competing, they can get themselves all the way to the show. Let's say a couple of days, 1 week out from the show. That's when an athlete needs a second eye. Somebody that because when you get to a point after dieting weeks and months, you look at yourself every day, you don't see what you're supposed to see. You know what I mean? Some people, they think they're better than they really are. And some people it's vice versa, but so you need somebody in your corner that has just got to be brutally honest with you. You know what I mean? To tell you, say, listen, you're not there. You know what I mean? Back off or whatever, or up the cardio. And that's hard to find because everybody's just patting everybody on the back, telling them how great they are. And then when they get on stage and they don't place, then they're mad at the coach. You know what I mean?
How did you learn, by the way, about who taught you about bodybuilding?
I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. I learned a lot by myself because I was living in Thailand. There was nobody there I could look up to. You know what I mean? There was one guy, I would never forget my very beginning when I started bodybuilding. I started training back in March or May, I don't remember, 92.
Your father was stationed in Thailand? He was serving there?
No. I went to Thailand on a trip. Okay. It was supposed to be 2 weeks, 1990.
How old were you?
I was 24 or 26. I don't remember, somewhere around there, in my mid-20s. And I was supposed to go two weeks, and I ended up staying 15 years. That was my 2-week Thailand trip. And I didn't start bodybuilding until 2 years later, so 92. And I was just, it was just basically $100 bet. I don't know if you know the story.
No, I don't know. Or maybe you mentioned it to me briefly, but I know about Thailand.
Yeah, it was just $100 bet. We used to hang out at nights, and then there was just guys from Sweden, Denmark, Germany. You could see these guys are bodybuilders. And they used to come hang out with us, and they come in their tank tops and they're walking like this. And, we get drunk every night. And I don't know, it was after a while, I said to this one guy, I said, listen, to look like you would take me less than 3 months. Or 3 months, something just similar to that. And he's like, nah, there's no way you can look like me in 3 months. And we put, in my drunken state of mind, I was drunk. I said, all right, come on, $100. And I literally went to the gym the next day with those guys, started training. I didn't know what to do. I just followed what they did. And got my money after 6 weeks.
Oh, so, well, you had your body was adapted to it quickly, right?
It was unbelievable. I gained like 2 pounds every day just by training. You know, I didn't change anything else. And that was 92. I was on the Universe stage in England in 93. And all that happened in Thailand. I was on the beach, you know. Now I'm training for a few months now, like 6, 7 months. You know, I had a good build.
Why Thailand? Why did you stay there for 15 years?
Why? Because I liked it. As a single man, you know, what better place? I mean, back in the 90s, it was way better than it is today, I'm sure. So anyway, so on the beach, somebody approached me, asked me, I said, hey, what show are you getting ready for? I said, show? I said, I'm getting ready for the go-go bar tonight.
That's what's up.
That's what I was getting ready for. And he said, yeah, because he was a very close friend to the president of the NABA Association. And you probably heard of NABA. NABA is once they hold the prestigious Universe.
I heard about it, yeah.
Arnold won that. So he said, because he's from Germany. So he said, listen, next time you're in Germany, come see me. I want to introduce you to the guy. All right. That was it. So a couple of months later, I'm in Germany. I contacted this guy. He invited me to his house. I went over to his house. And then here comes the president with a video. I'll never forget, with the 1992 Mr. Universe from Birmingham, England. He puts in the VHS. And there was Mustafa Mohammed. He just won the Universe amateur overall. Big legs. And he asked me, like, you know, hey, could you hang with it? I was like, sure. I was just playing around. I didn't know he was serious. So he says, okay, I invite you for the Mr. Universe that year, which was 93. So that was sometime in April or May when I was talking to him. And he invited me to compete at the Universe in October. So I'm like, what time do you want me to be there? So he said, listen, we have a qualifier the week before in Germany called the Night of Champions for the NABA, where the team qualifies to go to the Universe. He said, yeah, I want you to compete with us. You know, if you can hang with them, you know, we'll take you to England with us. All right. He left. I told the guy he was joking, right? He said, no, he was serious. So I told him it was May 92, 93. I said, I better get ready. So I went back to Thailand and I asked my Italian friend, Piero Colucci, because he was the only one I knew that competed before. Hey, how do I diet for a show? So he told me, I'll never forget that. He told me chicken or turkey, pasta, and pineapple. He didn't tell me how much. So I was eating chicken, turkey, or chicken, pasta, and pineapple as much as I could all day. And I guarantee you, I came to Germany for the qualifier. I ended up, and this guy, Mustafa Mohammed, he was the guest poser. I ended up competing with these guys and ended up, had the people asking for more. I had to come back and do another routine because I didn't really know how to pose. I was doing this, I was breakdancing because I used to be a breakdancer. So I was pop locking on stage. So I killed the whole show. You know what I mean? So that was 93, and a week later, they brought me to England with the German team. I competed for the United States. I'm American. To this day, well, no, I met the Americans later. I was on the American team, but I was not included with them because I didn't even know who they were. I was the only American that year that placed in the top 5 in any event that day. So this is how I got to meet the following year. This is how I got to meet Bob Gruskin, who just passed away, who was the president for the NABA from New York. Because I was American, but they didn't even know I was coming. They had no idea.
So you went from a bet to like becoming a serious
I went
competitor.
from the go-go bar to 4th at the Universe. And the following year, I went back to the Universe and I got 2nd. And then the 3rd year I went back and I won. So in 95, I won the Universe. Yeah, that was my, and that was on NABA. So my dream was IFBB because everybody thinks about the Olympia, and I'm looking at magazines, like Kevin Lavone, all these guys. I know it from magazines. Keep in mind, I'm living in Thailand, and I traveled to England to compete. So I did the 93, the 94, and the 95. I won the 95 Universe Amateur. Then I competed at the Pro Universe in 96, also in England. It's in conjunction with the amateurs. I got second, but then I told myself, I want to be IFBB. What do I have to do in order to compete with the IFBB? Me as a U.S. citizen, there's two options. Option number one, go to the U.S., because there's only the USA Championship or the Nationals. Back then, there was only two ways to get a pro card. In the other part of the world, there's one more chance, which is the World Championships. If you win the overall, you get your pro card, and back then you even qualified for the Olympia. So I figured, you know what? Let me go to the U.S. 1997, I bought a flight from Pattaya, Thailand, or from Bangkok. I remember Los Angeles. All I knew from magazines, there was no internet. From magazines was Gold Ship Venice, Marina Del Rey. Marina Pacific, which was the hotel where everybody stayed when they came from out of town, and Firehouse, the restaurant. That's all I knew. So I bought a flight to Los Angeles. I took a cab to the Marina Pacific. I remember I had a room there, and I went to the reception. I said, "Hey, where's Gold's Gym?" I just walked a couple of blocks down this way, which I had no idea that a block is forever. So I walked to Gold's. It took me like 20 minutes, 25, maybe 30 minutes. So I walked into Gold's Gym, and I remember I see the sign, and they had the street sign, for, caution, bodybuilders crossing, everything I just knew from magazines. So I walked into Gold's Gym. This is a true story. It's unbelievable. Nobody knew who I was. I walked in, and I remember the first guy I saw walking past me was huge, big Paul Dillette.
Wow.
I was like,
he was big, right?
So, huh?
He was huge, right? Paul Dillette.
Huge. And you know how it is? It's different. You don't see yourself. You look at other people, even if they're smaller than you, and you're like, big, look at the arms. And you don't compare yourself until you see pictures where you stand next to each other. Like, hey, I'm bigger than him. But I wasn't bigger than Paul. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, this is the first person I saw. I knew everybody trains there. So I keep going. I started training. I felt like an idiot. You know what I mean? I was shy. And I was like, oh. And you know how bodybuilders are. They don't really approach you, So I was there for a couple of days before one person approached me, Rico McClinton. That was, back then, it was Flex's training partner. So he said, "Hey, man, where you from?" And I told him, I said, "Yeah, man, I live in Thailand." Thailand, like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Yeah, I'm trying to go into the IFBB." I didn't even know it was NPC in the US. I had no clue. So him and Gary Stryden, they basically hindered me to contact. First he said, because I told him, I said, "Yeah, I competed in NABA, I won the university." He said, "Hey, you in here? IFBB. Don't even mention it." So I kept my mouth shut. So they told me, contact John Lindsay. I contacted John Lindsay over the phone. "Listen, I want to sign up an NPC card." Back then, the NPC card was $40. And he said, "Where you want me to send the card to?" I said, "Thailand." He's like, "John Lindsay, what the f you doing in Thailand?" So all this, I got the NPC card. And so 1997, I competed at the first NPC show, which was, you had to qualify to do either the USAs or the Nationals. So back then, there was no super heavyweights. It was all heavyweights was the last one. So I had to qualify. So I remember I asked, where can I qualify before the Nationals? San Diego, Border States Classics. Also John Lindsay's show, if I remember correctly. So I fly back to the US for this Border States Classic. I had no idea how to get to San Diego. How do you get to San Diego? I said, "Oh, you got to drive." I was like, "Okay, how?" Rent a car. Back then, I didn't even have a credit card. So you couldn't even get a rent a car. So I had a friend there, not a friend, somebody I met that I was pretty close. I said, "Listen, help me out." He knew a rental car place where he could, guarantee you for cash. So I rented a car. I brought him with me because I didn't know where to go. There was no GPS back then. And we drove to San Diego. I'll never forget it. I signed in for novice. This is my first show in the NPC. So it's the first time a novice. So remember, we get to the room, athletes meeting, and it says novice, all in this room, open, all in the other room. So I get myself up. I walk into the room with the novice for weigh-ins. I take my clothes off. They say, "Oh, hell no. You go back into the other room." They sent me right back to the open. So I got on stage the next day. I remember exactly, and this I'll never forget, because as soon as I still had hair, And as soon as I got on stage, people calling me Kevin Lerone. So I won the overall. And even though this was supposed to be the qualifier for the following year, because it was the end of the year, they still, because I came from out of the country, they said, we'll let you go into the Nationals 2 or 3 weeks later. And I went to the Nationals and placed fourth. My first Nationals. Tom Prince won. Orville Burke got second. Gary Downing got third. I got fourth. I don't remember who got fifth. And Dave Palumbo got sixth. So that was my first Nationals. So I tell myself, listen, I'm going to train 1 year and come back for the Nationals next year. And I remember Lonnie Teeper came to me and said, hey, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to get ready next year and I'm going to come back even better. He said, why wait till next year in November? Do the USAs in July. And I thought from the magazines, July was the West Coast show. Everybody, favorites the West Coast guys. But I said, you know what? Let's go. So I went back. I prepared. I went back to California, July the following year, Las Vegas. And that was the first year to introduce the super heavies. So I was 215 in November, and I weighed in at 232 in July. And won the super heavies, first super heavies, and won the overall, won my USAs in my first try. Got my pro card. That's how it all started.
And did you continue eating pineapples and pasta the whole time?
No. No. That was for the first year, that first show. I didn't really. And then you start picking up. You start learning stuff. I still never had a coach. Until I competed, I won the USA all by myself. I competed at the 1999 Night Champions, was my pro debut. And this is where I met Milos.
Mm-hmm. Milos Sarcev, yeah. He's a coach now, yeah.
He approached me at where you from, and blah blah blah. He told me what the potential I had, what talent. He saw the talent, and you know what I mean. He said, I would like to help you. You know what I mean? And I had no idea. I was like, hey, shit, you get a guy like this, offer you help, of course. So that's when I started working with Milos for the next couple of years. You know what I mean? And the rest is history.
How was Milos as a coach, by the way? Because I know he was a pro as well, and then he became a very popular coach. And he's always, he's somewhat controversial, I think. But how did you like working with him?
Well, me and Milos, it wasn't so much as a coach. I didn't see him as my coach. We were friends. We were really, really, really close friends. So I didn't see him as a coach. I saw him as a close friend who has knowledge, and I took his advice. Okay. I remember the first time I told him, I said, when he asked me, what am I doing? Because he wanted to know what I've been doing, cycle wise. And you can ask him next time you talk to him. So I told him, and he told me, well, it's just like a female cycle, he said. He said, I was like, yeah, that's what I've been doing. And, and it worked for me. You know what I mean? I was never a guy that's like, oh, yeah, whatever. No. So I was listening to him, but, and he can also tell you that I didn't do everything I was supposed to do when it comes to PEDs, because it was just too much for me. I just didn't like it. You know what I mean? And he knows that's true. I couldn't be doing that stuff every day. There's no way.
Mm-hmm. No way. You made a statement.
But I've learned a lot. I learned a lot from him because he has the knowledge. So you can't deny that.
You made a statement a few years ago. You said that 90s bodybuilders dieted harder and worked harder than the bodybuilders today. What do you mean by that exactly?
When did I make that statement?
A couple of years ago, 2018, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, well, I believe dieted harder. Yeah. I don't want to say worked harder.
It was train harder and dieted harder.
Maybe, yeah, well, it's I don't want to say train harder. Like, if you diet harder, you're automatically weaker. So training is going to be harder. So it was all a little bit, it was just more serious, I think.
Why do they diet harder, you think? I mean,
because it was condition was what was important, because there was no, today you see how many guys, everybody is 240 plus. Back then, 240 was, that was crazy heavy. You know what I mean? So, but now everybody's going for size because you have to chase the bigger guys. It started with Dorian actually, but it went even higher with Ronnie. That was my mistake. That's why I blew out of proportion because I thought
you were a big guy yourself. You would consider yourself a mass monster, right, on stage? I mean, looking at the picture.
I would never consider myself a mass monster, but people did. So, but I if I could turn back the time, I would not do what I did and chase Ronnie. I would have stuck with, because I had really, really good proportions. I had a super tiny waist, and all that basically went to shits trying to get too big.
So do you think that changed bodybuilding basically when a lot of people were chasing Ronnie and that created a bigger and bigger bodybuilders? You think that was
Yes,
that
yes,
race to catch up to
I
him?
think so. I think so. Yeah, I think so. Because at the end of the day, when you ask people nowadays, and said, "Oh, fans," so what do you prefer? What body do you prefer? Everybody, the percentage is higher for the '90s, for the more streamlined look. You know what I mean? I mean, don't get me wrong. There's guys today, huge, big monsters that still are streamlined, and I consider guys like Ramy, Brandon. These guys are streamlined. Don't get me wrong, but I think condition suffers a little bit, and that wasn't the case back in the '90s and the very early 2000s.
Do you think Sean Roden's victory at Olympia kind of was supposed to turn things around maybe and become more about symmetry and condition as opposed to size?
I'm not sure, because I think if Phil would have had his stomach under control that day, that he would still be Mr. Olympia right now. And don't get me wrong, Sean deserved it that day, because Phil blew it. I'm not saying Phil was off, because he wasn't off. He was on, but his stomach was out of control. And the year before, it was out of control, and they still gave it to him. But don't come back the next month and the next year and don't control it, thinking yeah, it's all right. No, it's not. And that's what they punished him for. And that was, basically Steve Weinberger. He confirmed that.
Yeah, so even though arguably like Phil won the poses, the mandatory poses, right? The back, the side, but he was basically the points were deducted because of the stomach.
That's what I think. Yes.
Do you think he
Yes.
should? Do you think Phil should have set that year out because he had a surgery? I mean, the stomach was due to the hernia surgery, I believe, or the pain. I
I
believe.
think if he would have, if I don't know, I don't even know how to say this not to make it look bad, because I think Phil. I don't think it was the surgery. I think it was just not controlling it. Maybe the surgery a little bit, but if you control it, as soon as you get out, just hold it in as much as you can. He would have still won, but he let it go. I remember telling him backstage, and I told him that backstage. I said, "Listen, control your stomach." That was before the finals. He thought he had it.
Now it's interesting you mentioned, you kind of have to be careful talking about certain things, right? Because you don't want to offend anybody. And the cool thing about you is that you've been a bodybuilder yourself, right? And you also been an analyst.
Right.
You've been basically, hosting a lot of the shows. You've been doing reporting on a lot of shows. You've been in the media for a while. And is that difficult for you to be able to express your thoughts on, let's say, a physique or a bodybuilder, right? But then usually not get a response back. Oh, Dennis, you're just hating. You know what I mean? Like, how do
No,
you
no,
how do you
no,
walk that
no.
line?
Yeah. Can nobody say I'm hating, because I've been there, done it. You know what I mean? Just because I didn't win the Olympia doesn't make me somebody that's not allowed to speak about other bodies. But the thing is, I have a very straightforward way of saying things. You know what I mean? And I've learned that some guys or girls, guys or girls, and sometimes they just don't know how to handle my straightforwardness. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why sometimes when I know something, I want to just tell it like it is. Sometimes I just have to change the words a little bit to make them understand that I'm not trying to you, but just criticize, give you some constructive criticism instead of just trashing you. I don't want to trash anyone. If I want to trash you, you'll know, because I'll trash you. If I want to trash you, I'll just give it to you the way I want to say it. But no, I just want to give constructive criticism and just tell people, really what I see.
Not sure, but I mean, you obviously have credibility. You can talk about anybody because like you
Mhm.
mentioned, you have credibility behind you, right? You've won multiple shows. You've been on Olympia stage many times. But generally speaking, do you feel like sometimes the guys and it's a small industry, right? Everybody knows everybody. But do you think sometimes there's a sensitivity factor happening where you give somebody critique, right? Because you analyzing the show, let's say, and then they go on social media and they talk about you. I mean, that happens sometimes.
It
And
happens all the
not
time.
with you, but like with other analysts too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
it happens all the time. In this sport, it's very important that if people don't respect you, you can say whatever you want. They're going to shit on you if they can. You know what I mean? If you get respect, you know what I mean? You have to earn respect, in order to give respect, sometimes you got to get respect back. But, there's a lot of so-called experts that do analyze and criticize athletes and never even been on stage or even close to a stage. You know what I mean? So, and some of them are just not qualified to say anything. Now with the internet, everybody has a voice. You know what I mean? And there's some websites out there, they get crazy amount of hits. They have no clue what they're talking about. You know what I mean? That's the only thing I don't like about today, because back then, you know, you knew who is who. Now you don't even know who people are when it comes to who covers bodybuilding, who talks about bodybuilding. You know what I mean? It's
It changed a lot for sure. It changed a lot.
just a little different, yeah.
Sure, sure. Now, how do you feel about there's certain speculation happening right now that the men's open bodybuilding is going to keep diminishing. It's going to consist of less and less guys, while men's physique and men's classic physique are going to keep expanding. You know, those divisions are going to keep growing. Although, of course, you know, men's open generates the most interest, right? But do you feel like we're going to continue having a lot of new blood coming in the division and really growing it forward?
I think the Mr. Olympia will always be the Mr. Olympia. It's always going to be the big boys. If you take the big boys out of the show, you'll see how many tickets you sell. I guarantee you that. Even though there's a lot of people watch physique, classic physique, because it looks a little more achieving for some of the guys and some of the fans, they still want to see the monsters. Absolutely. That's what the Mr. Olympia is. Every other show is not called Mr. Olympia. It's only one category that's called Mr. Olympia. Everything else it's not called Mr. Olympia. So we
But
can't
do you
get
feel
that
like
twisted.
do you feel like we're going to keep getting new talent to join a division for it to grow? You know what I'm saying? Do you think it's going to be more of these mass monsters, more of the real men's open like requires a certain it's you know it's a lot of suffering, right? It's a lot of you really need to put your body through a certain amount of pressure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's always been this way. So, why should it change? You know what I mean? There's a lot of knowledge out there right now. And if the new guys coming up understand, listen, more is not better. And if they understand that, I think it's going to go back. It's going to get better again. I think the sport will improve in the next couple of years, because, all this bad mouthing of bodybuilding is going to help a little bit, talking about, yeah, the 90s era, the era. I think it's going to help. I think that the guys are going to come in more conditioned. But at the end of the day, I have to understand these guys too. I mean, if you see who's winning or who's placing the top side, why should I get better conditioned when I'm placing? You know what I mean? So if you don't get punished for not being 100% on, why should you try to kill yourself to be in better condition? So, it's normal. That's why everybody else, if you compare Dexter Jackson, let's look at the Arnold in March. If you look at the Arnold and you just say, how many guys were really conditioned to the point where you say that was top condition? There was Max Charles. There was Morgan Astor, that big guy. There was Dexter, William, and then that's almost it.
Big Ramy was there, right?
Yeah, but he wasn't in 100% condition. He was there, but he wasn't in the condition that, as the guy that I just mentioned. He gets away with other parts. You know what I mean? Size and proportions. He stands out like that. But if you judge shows 15, 20 years ago, and you look through the top 10, everybody was conditioned.
Now,
So
no, go
go
ahead.
ahead. So I think it's going to get better. I think the guys are now probably understanding that, listen, we need to bring condition back. And I'm almost positive that it will get better with the sport. I mean, the open category will get better reviews again, and the Olympia will always be the Olympia, no doubt.
Mm-hmm. Now, speaking of Big Ramy, so obviously, for those who don't know, you were his original coach. You were the guy that brought him to the United States, to do his first pro show. Since then he's been on Olympia stage. He got second place. That was his highest placing, and a lot of people thought he was gonna take the title from Phil. Actually, right at some point, people really thought he was the one. It didn't happen, and it's constantly people have high expectations for him, right? They're always expecting because he's a great bodybuilder. But what do you think is? I hear his lacking condition or whatever, but what do you think is preventing him from getting that title or prevented in the past?
Condition. That's it. There's no missing body parts. It's the condition. If he would bring, if he would bring a little better condition, and listen, for the Arnold this year, I followed his progress. I saw pictures leading up to the Arnold every week, and he was literally in the best condition I've ever seen him in. 1 week out. That's why I said, listen, Arnold is over. That's around. He's going to win this thing hands down. You know what I mean? I don't know what happened in the last couple of days. Again, probably too many carbs. You know what I mean? Ramy he doesn't need that many carbs. It doesn't matter if he's 100% full or not. He can be flat and still be fuller than everybody else on stage. So I think it's time for him to stick to one coach and let them figure out the formula. You know what I mean? You can't just go to somebody and he'll know exactly what to do with you. It doesn't matter who it is. It's going to take time. You know what I mean? But if you jump from one to the next to the other, you're not given that. You're not given the time needed in order to figure out what really needs to be done in order to bring you in shredded. You know what I'm saying? Will he ever be shredded like some of the other guys? Maybe it's not possible. I don't know. In the beginning, in my time, I thought it was because he didn't put enough years of training in there yet. It's still, his quality is still not there yet. I thought it's going to get better with years and years and years. But it's very hard to see because he never stuck to the same coach for a long time. So, well, I don't know. But I know he can do it. But if he puts it together, it's lights out, game over for all of them.
I keep hearing that for years, every year.
I know, and I've been saying this since 2013, and I still say it. But if you ask me if it's ever going to happen, I don't know. We're at this point where people say, I'm getting tired of hoping.
But he's won, in his defense, he won major shows. He won Arnold Classic, right? He won Arnold Classic.
That's the thing. If you win not being 100%, what can happen if you're 100%? You know what I mean? He won everything.
Isn't it amazing how you can have amazing prep, but then you can miss your peak just the last day before the competition?
Oh, trust me, I know very well about that. That happened to me a few times. Oh, yes.
How frustrating is that? Because you look at yourself in the mirror, you're ready, you see the pictures, right? You're ready to go, and then
it's totally frustrating. And the biggest problem is, and this is probably Raleigh's case right now, because you got to prep, and this whole prep, you tell yourself, please don't let this happen again. So you're prepping, you're getting there, and now you're getting to the last week. Now nerves. Thinking about, please don't let this happen again. It's already enough for your body to release its cortisol and make you hold water. You know what I mean? You got to be relaxed. You got to be in a total a calm environment where you don't have to worry about nothing. And that's why I personally believe Ramy was in his best shape in 2014. That's when he was staying here with me, and he was with me the last 3 months for the Olympia. He didn't have to do nothing but sleep, eat, and train. And I think that was the calmest he's ever been. And I think if he gets back to that state of mind where he doesn't have to worry about nothing, just relax, train, follow whatever your coach is telling you to follow, and let everything fall into place. That's it. But as soon as your mind goes wild and you think about, please don't let this happen, because I know I've been there. That it happens.
It's got to be hard though to release your mental, because everybody got things they worry about.
Yeah.
External factors.
That's why you got to be somewhere where you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about where my food is coming from. You don't have to worry about, who prepares your meals. Everything has to be perfect. And then you can literally just switch off and just be on autopilot.
Have you ever disagreed with the judges' decisions on a show day?
Of course. The judges are human beings. And there's not one, there's 7, sometimes even more. But now it's 7, but before it was more. So it's a subjective sport. Just because I like this is the way I see it doesn't mean it's the same way the judges see it.
Mm-hmm. So how do you deal with that? Let's say there's a decision, right? So
how do you deal with it?
You disagree with it, and everybody's in your ear saying that you got robbed.
Well, if you disagree with the judges, the last thing you want to do is complain, because complaining is not going to get you nowhere. And this is what a lot of trainers used to do. They complain or they say something stupid, and it's not going to hurt you as a coach, but it's going to hurt your athlete. You know what I mean? Because he's the one on stage representing himself. So if you trashing the judges, What is that going to do? They're not going to say, okay, let's change the damn score sheets. You're right. It's not going to happen. So there's no need to complain to the judges. The only thing that I think is a good thing to do is, as an athlete, as a guy that stood on stage, go to the head judge and ask him, what do I need to improve on? So you have something to do. So you have at least let him tell you what the reason is. So you know what you need to work on. Don't let your coach tell you should have won. So we don't need to change nothing. You know what I mean? Even though this maybe might be the case, but the judges didn't see it this way. So you need to ask the judges, what do I need to do in order to come out on top? Then the judge is going to tell you, don't go to any of the judges, go to the head judge, because the head judge is the one that makes ultimately the decisions. So you ask him, what do I need to do? And then come in next time and improve that. If the head judge tells you, yeah, your hamstrings are soft, tell the head judge before you step on stage next time, listen, please pay attention to my hamstrings. There's nothing wrong with that. Let the judges see that you take their criticism. You know what I mean? That's what they're there for. Not only to judge you, also to tell you what you need to do in order to place better.
Sure. Now, do you feel like if you're Mr. Olympia or a high caliber bodybuilder, and you say you do off-season guest posing, do you feel like you need to always present yourself in shape? Because, obviously off-season is off-season, right? But let's say you do a guest posing somewhere, you go to a Jim Mannion show in Pittsburgh, or you go to, some other high-profile show and you do a guest appearance or something. Do you think they're obligated to be, presentable?
Yes, absolutely. That's if you call yourself a professional, then that's your job. And if your job is to be a professional bodybuilder, that means you earn money, not only competing on stage, but you make your living off of guest appearances and guest posings, seminars, etc. So your job is to not go to any show. It doesn't matter if this is Jim Mannion show, high profile shows, any guest appearance. There's competitions there. So now there's athletes, amateurs, they're not on your level, but they dieted for a show. So the last thing as a spectator is me. I want to see guys in shape all night. And now here comes the guy that I paid for just to watch, and he comes out looking like a fat slob. Nah, that's not. It happens. But you know what? It shouldn't happen. And that's why if you present yourself like that, I promise you, they will never bring you back. So as a professional, you live off of guest appearances. So you want to be presentable. You want the promoters to know, I can call this person at any time. He will be ready to step on stage as a guest poster. You don't need to be shredded. You don't need to, but just, look decent. Look like a bodybuilder. Don't look like somebody that doesn't even lift. No. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because some bodybuilders, they go so far off, they don't even look like they lift. They look like garbage. And why would you want to step on stage and take somebody's money when you don't even look like the person in the pictures? Not even the face.
Why do they get so out of shape, you think? And I'm not speaking to anybody specific. I'm just saying, why does it happen?
Because they don't take their job serious. If you take your job serious, that means you get off, you finish, and you get, your competition is over. You get back to eating the same food, but more of it. You don't go eat pizza and pasta all day, every day. That's not what you do. You want to be presentable. If you want to make money, that's how you do it. If you don't want to make money, you can get fat and just don't guest post. Don't let people call you and tell them, no, listen, I'm out of shape. I would not step on stage out of shape.
All right, cool. So we were talking about the GoFundMe campaign for Flex Wheeler. So you have started it, right? You
Yes.
were part of organizing, right?
Yes.
So tell me how that went, and also how's Flex? You're friends with him. How's Flex doing? For those who don't know.
Well, Flex is doing much better than I thought he would. I mean, much better than I probably would if I had to lose one of my legs. So he's doing very well. He's in good spirit, which is very, very, I mean, especially in this time, it's great to see that someone who went through so much in his life, not only, with so many transplants, so many things, that he takes this and moves on. You know what I mean? I don't know if I could do it. I doubt it, because this is not something that you're gonna have to live with temporary. This is forever. You know, so he's doing really good. I'm really proud of him, to be honest. And yeah, and how this came about, I know Flex's situation. You know, it's. I know people always think, oh, he's driving a Jaguar, and you know that doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for me knowing his financial situation, because he's been in the hospital for a very long time, his health insurance, they already kicked him out basically, so he's basically paying for himself. And I knew that, you know, that's not cheap. So that's why I started to go GoFundMe. If I knew he had money, I would never do it, because I'm not trying to get money out of people to give it to someone who has money. That's not my intention. So I did it because I know he needed it, and that's the only reason.
And did it help him? Did it help with the bills and everything?
Well, it helped with whatever you got. It helped, of course. It helped him. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, it helped him. You know, and he ended up. As far as I know, he got the because I didn't even know that a prosthetic leg cost over $100,000. So, but thank God he got that sponsored now from somewhere. So he could have used. So he probably could have used that money for other medical bills that he has, because he was in the hospital for a year almost, in and out of the hospital. It's ridiculous, ridiculous.
Um, you know, outside of Flex, and I don't want to say any names, but periodically we hear reports of a bodybuilder dying at a relatively, you know, bodybuilders dying at a
Mhm.
relatively young age in the 50s, sometimes late 40s, you know. Um, do you think it's a problem with bodybuilding and health factors, or do you think it's just today's world is just more attention, like people like media reporting it more, so it
It's
becomes a
just, yeah,
problem?
it's just the bad attention, attention that bodybuilders get. How many other people die in their 30s, 40s, 20s, die of not natural causes? So why, you know, we don't talk about that. We talk about bodybuilders. And how many bodybuilders really died? If you think about it, in the last 10 years or 50 or 20 years, how many really died at, you know, not at, you know, natural causes? I mean, there's not that many. I mean, it's sad to see guys like Dallas go at 20 something years old. You know what I mean? But if you look at it, it's not like they're all just falling apart and everybody's just dying left and right. That's not happening. So we, of course, I mean, it's just because bodybuilders do take steroids, and if something happens, yes, steroid related. It's just like right now, everybody that's dying is dying off of COVID, but there's no proof. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people, you know, there's a lot of people that just said COVID just because, you know, he died. They're not even checking what the reason was, or if he had COVID, they just write down COVID. Same thing. So it's yeah. I think they make it worse than it really is. Or is it safe? No. But is it safe to drive a car? Is it safe to smoke cigarettes? You know. So at the end of the day, everybody who has lung cancer. Can we say he's a smoker? No. I know people. My cousin had lung cancer. He doesn't even smoke. Yeah. So what do we accuse him of? You know what I mean? So it's easy to point fingers, but at the end of the day, you know, everybody's responsible for himself. You know what I mean? We don't want to cry. And just now, I mean, you know, it hits home when it's somebody close to you, of course. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you know, I mean, you have no guarantee that you're going to live forever. Doesn't matter what you do.
Of course, no, there's no question about
You
it.
know.
But do you think, since we're on the subject matter about substances, do you feel we're working on a project right now? It's about it's covering on natural bodybuilding, right? Because for many
Mhm.
years we've been getting a lot of emails and letters and people saying why Generation Iron is not promoting the drug-free organizations or like just natural bodybuilding in general, right?
Mhm.
So we started getting more into it and kind of getting into the understanding what that actually is, you know, because I had no idea what that was.
Mhm.
But do you think natural bodybuilding can be a good thing and should be promoted actually more?
It should be promoted as much as possible. It's just the problem is that I'm not saying all, but most natural shows are not really natural. So, you know, how many people claim natural on YouTube, and you know, only to find out that they're really not that natural. You know what I mean? So it's a matter of, you got to believe a person. I personally believe natural, but you can go far natural. I had a client, Robert Timms, lifetime natural, cancer survivor, never touched. Yeah. I brought him up. What started as physique? I said, when classic physique started, I said, listen, now this is your category. He won every show, got his pro card, won and qualified for the Olympia. He did 2 or 3 Olympics, natural. You know what I mean? So yes, it's absolutely possible. Your genetics play a major role. If you want to get to that category, natural, you got to have crazy genetics. Absolutely. I think like no other. But I like natural shows when they're really natural because then, everybody has, the same advantages, you know what I mean? But if you do natural shows where they don't really test, they just say they test everyone. So, you know what I mean? And then what they do is they do random tests, pick random guys, do lie detector tests. You know what I mean? Then you look at stage, you see guys where you can say, listen, I'll lose my leg if this guy is natural. You know what I mean? Because, you can see certain things. But then again, I have to admit that when you look at Robert Timms, people don't believe him either. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I think national bodybuilding should be promoted too. Absolutely. It's just very hard to believe. And it's mostly the guys that use steroids that don't even compete, that think, you take steroids, you're going to look like us back in the days. And if you don't get there, then they are the ones saying, if I would use as much as he's using, I would look like him. You know what I mean? If you see somebody natural that's twice as big as this guy, then he's going to say, oh, yeah, he's not natural. That's the problem.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point, and we definitely explore that in a new project because can people cheat the drug test? Let's say, can you cheat?
Oh yeah, you can cheat any drug test, of course, absolutely.
And substances don't show up even in the urine test, from what I hear. So it really becomes very speculative. You know what I mean?
You can cheat almost any drug test if you know it's coming. If you know the test is coming, you can cheat it. Absolutely. There's ways. Yeah. It's the same way when they did the diuretic test for us. They did the diuretic test, so they put, let's say there's 20 different diuretics out there. They put 15 on the list, 500 on the list. What is that telling you? Hey guys, here. How you gonna put, if you want a diet test, why don't you put them all on the list? Why would you let the strongest ones, some of the strongest ones, not on the list?
Are diuretics very dangerous? Because I was talking to somebody recently on a record, and it told me actually it's you can die from it. Like it's just dangerous.
Oh, yeah,
from depletion.
Diuretics, yeah, you can literally make your heart stop. This could happen, yeah. If you dehydrate yourself, you don't even have to use diuretics. Try not to drink for 3-4 days. See what happens. So diuretics will just help you just speed it up a little bit. You know what I mean? That's why back in the days, people thought you don't drink and take diuretics on top of that. So now people, at least they're more advanced and they know you take diuretics, but you still drink. Don't you still got to have some amount of fluid just to keep just stay alive.
Shouldn't, logically speaking, the quality of bodybuilders should be much better now than in the 90s or early 2000s because there's so much more advanced science, there's knowledge, right? Like you have way more knowledge now that you had when you first started, right? So you can pass that on to your clients or whatever. Shouldn't the bodybuilding quality of it should be so much better?
But it's depending on the trend. You know who can change it? You know who can change this right now to put it where it should be or where they really want it to be? The judges. The judges have power. They have the control to change, to tell the guys what they want to see. If the judges would do a seminar, a judges meeting today and say, listen, guys, this is an example, okay? And I'm not knocking on the judges. They're doing a great job because they're judging what they're seeing. So, but if the judges, if the judges would say today, let's say there would be a press release, all competitors, IFBB Pro League. From now on, we'll be looking at condition. We're not happy with the condition that we're seeing on a lot of athletes. Don't point them out. So we would like to see, guys come in more conditioned. That would help. Now guys would start, busting their ass for condition again. How many guys are doing 2 hours of cardio nowadays? That was almost normal back then. An hour in the morning, an hour at night. I was doing 2 hours of cardio. That was normal. This is 2 hours a day where you're going to do your cardio regardless if you train or not. And then you do 2 training sessions. That was in the gym 4 times.
That's crazy. That's a lot of time.
Yeah, but that makes a difference. You know what I mean? So you do the amount of cardio, And then, and then you diet harder, you do lower carbs and stuff, there's so many things that are not as intense today because I work with a lot of guys and I don't even have anybody on 2 hours of cardio because you don't have to go for that standard. You don't have to go for that super because these guys are all about the same level. You know what I mean? If the top 6 guys would be completely shredded and you never make the top 6, you'll know what the reason is. But if you could be third or second and not even be on, why should you kill yourself?
Mm-hmm. Dennis, who do you think are the 5 top bodybuilders of all time? 5 top best bodybuilders of all time. Well, you have to give me 5 though. In your opinion. Okay, Ronnie.
Ronnie, Flex, Phil, Lee Haney. Now it depends if we go by what they achieved or what my personal look.
5 top dead or alive.
What I personally like as a physique wise or as a.
In your opinion, like top 5,
Yeah.
It has to be your opinion, so whatever you think.
Yeah. Kevin and Arnold.
Kevin and Arnold.
Yeah.
I think it's really good that you put.
But Arnold, because out of respect, because I don't think Arnold would be able to compete with the way he looked back then today, or with these guys I mentioned. I just don't think he would have a chance. But he wasn't at that. They weren't at that point back then. You know what I mean? But Arnold had no competition, so everybody puts Arnold as the greatest bodybuilder. He had the most success. But if I have to judge my top 5 physiques of all time, I have to put Kevin in there way before Arnold.
I think it's great that you put Phil on that list because Phil gets so much a lot of people dismiss him, you know what I mean? But I feel like he accomplished a lot.
Phil gets a lot of hate. Phil gets a lot of hate from people, and sometimes I don't get it.
I don't get it either. I don't get it either. I don't get it.
Sometimes I really don't get it. And especially I don't get it from fellow bodybuilders. Listen, you don't have to like somebody's personality, but you cannot knock this man's physique. I don't give a what you say. You know what I mean? You don't have to like a person. You know what I mean? Absolutely not. But, it's a lot of people that just, I don't know if they're jealous or if they just don't like somebody else having success or if it's just a personal thing. But let's take personalities out of business. When we go by personalities, then people would be on top. They would never win shows. You know what I'm saying? So, you can't judge. And then, people don't understand. And I remember when I first met Phil, it was at the Weeder booth. He just turned pro. I remember he was just happy to be with me at the booth. You know what I mean? Like it was just coming up. You know what I mean? Show respect. And he shows me respect still to this day. But I do have to understand that his career went, and now all of a sudden you're Mr. Olympia, which means you're the top guy, the top dog. For 7 years. And I never won the Olympia. But I know how hard it can be when you go somewhere and people want to take a picture with you, which is perfectly fine. But if you're somewhere and somebody comes take a picture, you take a picture with him, now everybody gets up and wants a picture because they see you do it with him. So now you're going to tell this guy no? So now you're taking pictures for hours in the restaurant. You're out with whatever. You know what I mean? And as a Mr. Olympia, I think it can get to the point where you want to tell people, listen, man, I'm eating. You know what I mean? And some people just can't understand that. You know what I mean? They got to be listen, give this man a break. He's eating. He's trying to get his meal in. Let him go. But if you say no, or you tell him, listen, I'm eating, this guy's, lost him as a fan. He's going to trash talk you, and that's how he goes around.
But I feel like also that's a good point. But I also feel like a lot of people dismissed him like his physique because I felt like for 7 years he was very dominant. You know what I mean? I always just.
How can you dismiss a physique when he went to Olympia 7 years?
It's crazy.
And how many times can you say he shouldn't have won?
People said he should have lost a couple of times to whoever, but that's not the point. I feel like
who said he should have lost?
Some people said he lost to Kai at some point, 2015, I think, and some people thought maybe Ramy took. I don't know. I'm just saying, people talk, But the point is, I don't, I feel like he was dominant for 7 years straight.
Yeah, he was. He was dominant, absolutely. And I'm saying, and I don't have any. Me and Phil, there's no business going on. I'm just saying this from outside looking in.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I agree. I agree with you.
Absolutely. And if it wasn't for his distended stomach, he would have 8 and maybe 9.
I want to ask you a couple more things, Dennis. So speaking of Olympia, right? One of my favorite things at Olympia that when I was attending there, like it was basically watching the press conference. You and
Mhm.
Bob Chicarelli used to host it for a few years. Can you tell me like a most memorable moment that you had at the press conference? Because those are fun. Those are really fun. The way you guys
My most memorable
did those
moment,
interviews, it was fun, man.
yeah, most memorable moment was when I asked. One of them was I remember when I because it's always good when you ask questions. You want to ask the guys questions, and when you talk to them in private, even sometimes I speak to guys before the press conference. Oh, I'm gonna whoop his ass, and nobody gonna beat me. Like, yeah, good. And then I ask them with the microphone, and then they want to be all, yeah, I'm just looking after myself. I got to beat myself. I was like, you know what I mean? Don't run your mouth, an hour ago and now trying to be all political correct because hey. And I remember when I asked Phil, I said, Phil, who's your biggest competition here today? And he's like, yeah, I'm everybody's competition. Everybody. So it's like, everybody's competition. So he doesn't want to really say who he thinks. So I said, Phil, okay, let me ask you a different question. I said, let's say Phil Heath is not in the show tomorrow. Who do you think would win it? And he's like, I think Dexter Jackson. I said, that's your competition. that was a memorable moment because he actually had to agree with me. And then another one was 2018 when Sean Roden won. Because Sean Roden, you know how Sean Roden is. Sean Roden he doesn't want to trash talk.
Right, but that year he did though, right?
And I told him to do it. I told him to do it because he was already trash talking like a week before on a video he did with Jay Cutler. And I told him backstage before the press conference, I said, Sean, I saw the video. I'm going to talk about it. Don't you even dare to try to talk your way out of this. I said, yeah, but I don't want to. I said, listen, you already said it online. I said, if you in shape, you can back up what you're saying. You better not, don't hold back because I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to call you out. That's exactly what I did. And he opened up. He said exactly what he wanted to say. You know what I mean? And I remember seeing him after the press conference. He was driving with his car with his girl. And he's like, yo, man, I hope I didn't this up. I said, no, man, you did good. If you can back it up, that was perfect. You know what I mean?
Wait, did you tell Kai and Phil to get into it at that press conference when they were yelling at each other?
No. That
You
was
didn't do
not
that
for us. I started it by saying one thing because Kai, the day before, press conference is Thursday. The day before is the check-ins, athletes meetings. So and there's always the Mr. Olympia poster, and everybody has to sign on the poster. So they give away this to the posters go to the VIP ticket holders, right? They get a big signed poster with everybody in the show. And Kai signed it with Mr. Olympia that year. He signed his name, and I brought that up because he did it the year before also. And he did it again the day before, and I brought that up to Phil, and he's like, that's when Phil said something. And then with Kai was probably, because Kai was always, not just a nice guy too. And so that was a year, he was very intense, and I loved it.
That was the best press conference in my opinion
I
because
loved it. I really loved it, yeah. And then they're talking about their coaches, and I was like, maybe the coaches should take it up,
I know,
chill.
right?
Yeah. That was good. But you know what? With guys in that state, like a couple of days before the show, the way they are mentally, it's very hard to get something out of them. You know what I mean? So if they don't have respect for you, you can't even ask them anything. You can't try to do an interview with someone. You know what I mean? I think it's very important that you know the guys. You know them. You know what to say and when to say it and how to say it. You know what I mean? Not because they're dehydrated. You know what I'm saying? They're 100% focused. You don't want to ask stupid questions. You know what I'm saying? Like just questions that doesn't even make sense. What the f you asking me this stupid question for? So that's where people have to understand how to talk to these guys. It's different. It's different if they had a pizza and 2 liters of Coke in their stomach. They weigh only the ice cream. They weigh different.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. All right, Dennis. So tell me a little bit more about what's happening in your business right now. I know you travel all over the world constantly. Obviously, with the whole quarantine, it's probably a little bit harder. But what's happening in your business? What's happening
Right
in
now,
your shows?
nothing's happening. Right now, nothing's happening. I mean, I don't travel right now because there's travel restrictions, as we all know. I couldn't travel to China, which I had planned in January. Thank God, because I flew to Germany to be with my dad who was sick, and then my plan was to fly from Germany on January 30th to China for 29 days.
Oh wow! To do what
And
are
then
we doing
after
there?
China,
What were you gonna
fly
do
back
there?
to
Training
Germany.
camp?
Yeah. And after China, fly back to Germany, and then a week later, on March 6th, fly to Italy for a 2-day seminar. So I'm in Germany, and then this hits the fan. We already knew China, and it started getting worse and worse and worse. And I was supposed to leave on the 30th of January, and January, like maybe 20th, I sent them a text to China. I said, "Listen, guys, what's going on, man? The situation, because I'm only hear the news." And they said, "Oh, it's nothing. We have it under control." Okay. I didn't say nothing. My mom started to get worried. It's like China, China, China. Everybody. Then they shut down Wuhan. I was like, and I knew I was on the other side, but still. So, and then 2 days before I was supposed to leave, I texted the guys. I said, "Listen, man, I'm worried. I'm scared. My family's scared, man. I can't do it." And they said, "Okay, we'll postpone to 18 days later." I said, "Okay, yeah, that's not happening either." So we postponed it. And it's still postponed now. So now I'm stuck in Germany because, I was supposed to be there for like a month. So now I stay in Germany a month longer. So I'm thinking of going to Italy. So now in the next 30 days, Italy's starting to go bad.
Yeah, got the worst of
So
it actually. Yeah.
a week before Italy was supposed to happen, we contacted Italy and they said, "Yeah, it's so bad we can't do it." So I stayed in Germany for 2 months. Nothing. I did nothing. Nothing but spend money. So right now there's no traveling. I was supposed to go to India. So right now there's no travel. Then my focus is on my shows. I promote shows, as you probably know. And I just had to cancel all my shows. I canceled my show here June 6th. Next month it's canceled. 3 regional shows in Germany are already canceled. I already canceled my pro qualifier in October in Germany.
That's crazy, man. I'm sorry to hear
And
that.
now it doesn't look good for the regional shows and the last 3 regional shows in Germany either. So this means this year I'm not going to do nothing. Nothing but coaching.
So do you think the bodybuilding whole season is pretty much ruined for all the shows, all the major shows? I mean, it's not looking like great because
It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all. But I want to still have hope and hope that it started to open up. But my fear right now is let's hope that it gets better and not worse again. Because if it gets worse and they're going to shut it down again, then we're done for this year.
that's my biggest hope too. I don't want it to be like some crazy other wave coming in.
Yeah. See, in Germany, they started last week to open up with certain things, and now their rate is going up. So they're already thinking about shutting it down again. It's
Well,
crazy.
God willing, is going to get better, man. I don't know.
Yeah, but even if it gets better, how long is this going to take for us to go back to normal?
Exactly. It's not going to be normal. It's going to be like very gradual, I think.
Years. When I mean normal to the point where we can go somewhere and hug somebody when you see, "Hey, what's up?" Now you don't even want to shake hands. So how long is it going to take for us to feel comfortable to go to a restaurant and not worried about the cook coughing in your food? That's what I'm talking about, because I have a friend in Germany who has a very, very successful Greek restaurant. And he's allowed to open again. There's restrictions, 2 meters in between. And then he opened up 2 days ago. And his restaurant is so popular that if you don't call for a table, you'll never get in.
Because he limits the tables now. You can only have like 50% probably, right?
But before it was so packed, it's
Right.
only by you gotta order, you gotta book a table.
Right.
You can't just walk in and say, I want to get. Nah, you stand. You can't. So now he said, he called me yesterday. He said, "I can't believe I'm sitting here and 2 people showed up all day." They're scared to go. That's the problem. But just because they tell you can open, the people are scared to go. It's going to take some time for them to be able to okay, I comfortably go and eat and buy food because they're scared. They're scared. That's the problem. That's why I postponed my show in October. Because even if the venue is telling me I can have the show, the athletes are not training right now. Nobody at this point for 2 months not in the gym. Everybody that was thinking about competing this year, and it's not like you don't train for 2 months and then you pick up the next month. No, if somebody that takes this sport serious can't train for 2 months, you basically don't eat well for 2 months because you don't give a shit. So I guarantee you, 70% of the athletes that wanted to compete this year already in their mind told them, oh, you know what, 2020, there's no show for me. I'm going to get ready for next year and just relax. So that's why I think even with the shows, if there's shows happening, it's going to be way less competitors than before. And the problem is for me and my show in Germany, I need the spectators. It's a very successful show. I sell 3,200 tickets. For me, not having ticket sales because I can't have the crowd is making me lose money. You know what I mean? And with the way it is right now, with not being able to make money, I'm definitely not going to lose it. So I'd rather go out like this before going into my savings and lose money for something that's not going to be successful.
Better to be safe, I hear you, man.
I have to. You know what I mean? Because athletes, again, we don't know what the travel restrictions. I live off last year I had 27 countries coming to the show.
Yeah, it's not going to be like
so. If we can have that, what are we going to do?
Right.
So better postpone it, do it next year, and hopefully everything is back to normal next year.
I really hope so, man. I really hope so.
Yeah.
But it's gonna take time for sure.
This will only work if it doesn't spike back up again. If because people are at the point right now, and I get it because I'm the same way. A month ago I was washing my hand 20 times a day, being at home. So what am I protecting myself for? For myself? I washed my hand so much, my hand was I was hurting. My skin, I was peeling, and it was crazy. So now I'm at the point where well, how are we gonna get sick? You know what I mean? It didn't hit home, because I don't have any friends being sick. So it's hard. So people start, that's why they back in the street protesting. You know what I mean? There's no safe distance. People don't care. They're at the point where so that's what scares me because that can spike it back up. And next thing you know is they're going to have to do a real shutdown because we didn't have a shutdown where people have to stay home, curfew. Where you can't even leave the house. We didn't get to that point. Maybe New York.
New York is definitely worse. It's a mandatory stay. It's a stay-at-home order, but you can still go outside and go jog and you can.
I know. So, but what worst case scenario? Stay home if you can't come out. I was, man. You probably got the same text messages going around. Martial law is coming Monday and all that bull. But I ran to the store. You should have saw me running to the store trying to shop because I got a text on a Saturday afternoon. Oh yeah, get ready for martial law Monday morning. They're just getting the National Guards in place and the military. I'm already seeing tanks going down my street. I ran to the store. And they telling me I can't buy more than 1 gallon of water.
Because people started hoarding right away. People started buying 10 packs of this and 40 packs of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because they're scared. They're
scared, yeah. It's crazy, man. Well, listen, man, I want to wish you the best, though, man. I think we should do this more often. You know what I mean? Do these interviews
I'm here,
more often,
bro. I'm
man.
here.
It's a great interview, man. I really enjoy talking to you, man. Just like the old times, man.
Awesome. I'm here. Whenever you need me, brother.
Thank you so much, Dennis. Let's do it. Let's do it again. Maybe like a month and a half, 2 months. Let's do it again.
All right, cool.
Thank you so much, Dennis.
Just get at me.
All right, man. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it, man.
Be safe.